So, Evan, Will, please remind me, where was Evan when he said this?
It was on Unsportsmanlike yesterday morning.
It's wild. I think this is a wild take.
Yes.
So let's take a listen. Chew, I don't know if you've heard this sound from Evan Cohen yesterday. He's talking about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, who we still don't know where he will be. Aaron Rodgers, who we discussed yesterday, could potentially be starting for the Steelers when they allegedly play the Green Bay Packers in Ireland this fall, which to me would be very intriguing, adds just another layer to that whole dynamic. But could also be on the Minnesota Vikings, could also play in the division and be captaining that team. Here's what Evan Cohen said yesterday about quarterback Aaron Rodgers.
I don't consider Aaron Rodgers, he's not a loser. I don't look at him, when I think of Aaron Rodgers, winning is not the first thing that comes to my mind.
Really? I mean, he won a Super Bowl.
I understand that.
As a wild card.
No, he's a first ballot, unanimous Hall of Famer. If you don't vote Aaron Rodgers in the Hall of Fame, that's a major problem. He is phenomenal at his job. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever live. When I think of winner, it's almost overachieving a little bit. Like Jalen Hurts to me is a winner. Tom Brady's a winner. These are people that I look at and I say, there's no justification for them to have won as much as they've won. When I think of Aaron Rodgers, I think of a talent more than a winner.
Chew, are you picking up the nuance that Evan is putting down there?
Yes, I am. You know what, though? I thought he's a little bit like, he could maybe say the same thing for Peyton Manning. Because when Peyton Manning won that Super Bowl in Denver, he was not very good.
Sure, he was bolstered by their defense.
Yeah, I know he's got two, but I see where Evan's going. Is he a choker? I mean, the table was set. The table was set. He was just bringing the meal over to the table and tripped and fell and wrecked the whole meal.
Are we talking about Manning here or Rodgers?
No, I'm talking about Rodgers.
Okay, so Manning's career regular season winning percentage was 70.2. Rodgers' career record, 63.1. I'm guessing Rodgers is including the playoffs there. I'm not exactly sure why the number that popped up when I Googled it was only for regular season, because obviously the postseason is what matters. But Manning's postseason record was 14-13. Manning was named MVP of the Super Bowl. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers was also. Manning won 2 Super Bowls. Rodgers won the one. If you had to pick between the two, Manning is probably the easy pick for winner if you had to pick between those two. But I got to be honest with you guys. I think this is way, way too nuanced. One, did Aaron Rodgers win a lot of games? Yes. Did Aaron Rodgers play a major role in many of those wins? Yes. Could you make the argument that at times, Chew, Aaron Rodgers was the only reason why Packers won some games? I would also say yes. It would be very hard for me. And I think, again, the nuance that Evan is delivering there is it's not the first thing that pops into his mind when he thinks of Aaron Rodgers. But I can't imagine a world where you don't look at Aaron Rodgers and eventually land on winner as an adjective to describe him, as a noun to describe him. So that's why I'm having a tough time with this.
No, he's a winner, but he underachieved. Like I said, the table was set. They should have won in Seattle in that NFC Championship game. They didn't. Look, if we're going to give all the credit to the quarterbacks, and you just said it, Manning won an MVP, I really don't care about it. Super Bowl MVPs. To me, that means nothing. There's 22 guys on the field. A regular season MVP is a little bit different, but should have won that. I mean, they were set up. Tampa Bay at home against, Tampa Bay at home in the NFC Championship game. They choked. He didn't play great. And then the year they lost to San Francisco, I remember doing those power rankings and sitting there going before the playoffs started, there's Green Bay and then a gap. Well, you choked there too, you know? I mean, I look back, I sit there and go, who had a better career? You know, I know stats are important. Who had a better career, Brett or Aaron? Is it 4 MVPs? Rodgers have 4? 4 to 3, right? And then Brett went to 2, and then lost 1. Rodgers went to 1, won 1. And I think if you put the players Aaron played with and the players that Brett played with offensively, I think Aaron had better players. So I see where Evan's going. I see where he's going. You can't call him a loser. I mean, he's a winner, but at the end of the day, I think he underachieved.
So, again, going back to when you think of Aaron Rodgers and take the stuff, the peripheral stuff, the behavioral stuff, the personality stuff out of the equation right now. Because I do think that for many people, that is the first thing that pops into their head, and I don't want that to be the conversation right here. Strictly what you've seen on the field from him. Competitor, right?
Yes.
Cerebral.
Yes.
Talented.
Yes.
Like these are all high achiever. These are all things that come to mind for me. And that doesn't mean that, again, I don't consider him a winner, but those are the first adjectives, descriptors that come to mind for me for Aaron Rodgers.
But Jen, what's an extremely important one that you're leaving out?
Tell me.
Leader. Is he a great leader?
Yeah, I have struggled.
Receivers.
I have struggled with that over the years. I think everybody has good moments and bad moments. I think that there are times where someone leads, and with retrospect, hindsight, if you will, you go, man, I could have handled that better. I could have handled that differently. And it's tough for me. I know you're a sum of the parts. I get it. It's all of it that creates the tapestry. But there's a part of me that also doesn't want to just crush him for not knowing in the moment how to handle those high pressure situations, right? Do we think that he erred at times with dealing with younger players? Absolutely. Did he try to correct that when he went to New York? It sounds like it. And all I can ask from people, and I say this all the time regarding athletes and otherwise, is to learn from the mistakes that you make. And it looked like, or at least it seemed like Aaron may have learned from some of the mistakes he made applicable to leadership specifically when he went to New York. I felt like he tried to do it differently.
But he had the blueprint. Brett didn't have the blueprint. Mike Sherman wrecked Brett. Because Mike Sherman was more in awe of Brett than anything and didn't rein him in. And that's why Brett went south towards the end of his career. Because he didn't have a Holmgren there to say, what? I mean, I can't even imagine, and you've heard the story before, when Brett, I mean, it is funny. When Brett leaves a preseason game before the thing is over and he gets home and he sees that the game is on TV, Holmgren would have lost his mind. Mike Sherman said, hey, you can't do that. Oh, really? You can't do that? Has his own locker room. So there was no one there to rein him in. And I'll even go as far as to say, when Brett lost his father, he lost a little bit of that too. He went astray. And Brett would probably admit that. My thing with Aaron, from a leadership standpoint, you had the blueprint. You saw what not to do. You saw what not to do, and you did it anyways. I can't remember. When did the train go off the tracks with him?
With Rodgers?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you can pinpoint one moment.
There isn't?
Again, so I can't even think now at this point. I have to do the math, and we know that's not my strong suit. When I was covering Rodgers in Green Bay, I saw cracks in the facade. I have said this. When I went from covering Milwaukee sports to covering Chicago sports to then big ESPN in 2015, I was already out on the guy. I was already like, nah, I don't like it. I've seen him treat people poorly. I've seen interactions that maybe other people haven't seen. I was already like, something's awry. Something's amiss. It all ain't great. And I feel like, over the last, decade or so, more people have said, okay, yeah, it's not all great.
Well, it went awry with Brett from the start. When you come in and meet Brett in the kitchen or training room or the training table that they have there, and your first introduction to Brett is you say, "Hey, old man, how are you doing?" You don't do that.
Oh, you're talking about
Brett,
yeah.
Yeah, is Brett a little overly sensitive there? Yeah, but you don't do that. You don't do that.
Yeah.
And there's some other things that I know that happened that I mean, it's a good story. I'm not going to.
I will say this also, and again, it's crazy because I find myself in this position right now where I'm defending Aaron Rodgers, and who would have thunk it? But I also think it's tough to go into that type of environment, want to create a rapport, know that y'all kind of jabbed each other and joshed each other and made cracks and whatnot, and thinking that's the way to, develop a chemistry. That's the way to sort of be one of the guys, but then say just exactly the wrong thing.
Well, what the
I mean?
hell with it? I'm going to say it because I don't really care. And
Can you hold on to it until after the break?
Yeah.
Can you hold on to your story?
And this will
you said you
explain
weren't
a
going
lot.
to tell, but
It'll
now you are
explain
going
a
to
lot.
tell. You're going to tell
Yeah,
it
that's
after the
fine.
break.
What
okay.
the hell?
We're going to take a break here on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy. Chewy's going to tell the story that he knows he shouldn't tell, but what the hell?
We all know Brett likes to play jokes, right? I mean, I've had Gatorade buckets dumped on me when I'm trying to back one out, and I've had Red Hot in the jock. That's just what Brett does. So whatever year this is, it's towards the end of the season, and Brett decides to take doe pee, as in deer, doe, pee, which hunters spray on their boots to hide the human scent when they go hunting in the woods. It stinks, right? It stinks, but it takes a little while to smell it. So Brett takes doe pee and puts it all over the back of Rodgers' practice jersey, right? A good one, typical Brett Favre joke. So Aaron, in a rush, goes down, grabs his shirt, puts it on, can't do anything. The thing stinks. He's kind of pouting because he's, the butt of the joke. So he has to suffer through practice, not talking to anyone, blah, blah, blah. So Aaron goes up to Ted Thompson, tells what happens, essentially tattling on Brett and Craignahl because they're laughing it up and stuff like that. So Ted Thompson calls Craignahl into his office upstairs and says, if you ever do something like that ever again to Aaron, I will cut you so fast and you'll be gone. So obviously Craig goes down and tells Brett, I have no respect for you. None. It's just what football players do. It's just part of it.